Okay, let's take a little time and review some things about expressions. If you look at example 1, we have a situation where we need to do the distributive property. Okay, remember the parentheses here mean we're multiplying negative 1/3 times everything in the parentheses. So negative 1/3 times 2x, and then minus negative 1/3 times 5. That's the long way to write it. But we could just do this on a calculator, or if you're good with fractions, on your own. Negative 1/3 times 2x would be negative 2/3 x. The trick here is we have a minus, but then negative 1/3 times 5 is negative 5/3. So it has been a long time since we've done integers and negatives, positives, all of those rules. So remember, subtracting a negative number is the same as adding a positive number. So the minus minus is going to become plus plus, and we end up with negative 2/3 x plus 5/3. All right, so distributive property is used when we want to multiply. That will get rid of the parentheses for us. Okay, let's look at example 2. We have 5 times the quantity 3x plus 9 minus the quantity 4x plus 6. First thing we want to do is let's get rid of our parentheses here by multiplying. Distributive property, 5 times 3x would be 15x plus 5 times 9 is 45. Okay, this one is a little tricky. We're subtracting everything inside the parentheses, so it's almost like multiplying by negative 1. We're going to have minus 4x plus a negative 6, which would be the same as subtracting 6. Okay, once you do that, you need to combine your like terms. 15x and negative 4x, remember we're adding those together, but really adding a positive and a negative is like subtracting. So we get 11x, and then I have a positive 45 and a negative 6, so that would end up being a positive 39. So we get 11x plus 39. Okay, let's look at example 3. This one's a little confusing because you see the two sets of parentheses, but we don't have any number in front that we need to distribute. We're really just adding these two quantities together. So in a way, the parentheses really don't matter because we're just adding everything in here. So we're adding negative 8.1x and adding a negative 4.2, which is really just the same as subtracting. Remember, adding a negative, same as subtracting. Adding a negative, same as subtracting. So you can see we're just back to what we had at the beginning. Okay, let's combine our like terms. Remember the x terms, including the sign in front. Don't forget the negative. Negative 2.1 and negative 8.1. If we add those together, we get negative 10.2x, and then we have a positive 3.4 and a negative 4.2. I'll do that on my calculator. That ends up being a minus 0.8. So that's the simplified version of that expression. All right, the last problem that we're going to do is area and perimeter. If you remember from previous years, to do the area of a rectangle, you take the length times the width. Okay, or sometimes people will say base times height. So if I'm doing the area of this rectangle, I need to take 2 times 5x minus 3. All right, if I want to, that is the area, or we could use the distributive property and get rid of the parentheses. 2 times 5x is 10x minus, you always want to bring down the same sign, 2 times 3 is 6. And that's really all that we can do. That's simplified. We just came up with an expression for the area of that rectangle. Okay, for perimeter, if you remember, for the perimeter of a rectangle, we need to add up all 4 sides to get the total length of all 4 sides. Okay, one mistake people do here is they just want to add these two together. But don't forget we have 2 other sides that are involved in the whole perimeter. So if this side is 2, this side is also 2. If this side is represented by 5x minus 3, this side is also 5x minus 3. So when you go to do the perimeter, we need to make sure that we add all 4 sides. Okay, we want to add all those 4 sides together and combine our like terms. There's also a formula for perimeter. Sometimes you can do 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So we could also do 2 times 2 plus 2 times 5x minus 3. That would also give us the perimeter. We're basically taking 2 of these, right? 2 times 5x minus 3 and 2 of these, or 2 times 2. But either one of those, when we combine our like terms, don't forget to include the sign in front. We have 2 plus negative 3 plus 2 plus negative 3 would be equal to negative 2. And then we have a positive 5x and a positive 5x, which would give us positive 10x. Okay, if we did it up here, distribute, we get 10x minus 6. Combine our like terms, and we would still end up with the same thing. We'd have negative 2 plus 10x. All right, so we haven't done a lot this year with area. Area is length times width. We can multiply these 2 expressions together to get an expression for the area. Perimeter of any shape, you're adding up all the sides. So if we add those up, we can get this expression for our perimeter.